Well, you found us. Hello again. This is the Richard and Judy Book Club in association with WHSmith. And the book that we want to talk about today is an absolute corker. I absolutely love this story. It's called The Greatcoat, and it's by Helen Dunmore. We'll hear from her in a second or two. It's set in post-war Britain, around about 1952, still rationed to the hilt, very, very poverty-stricken still after the Second World War. And it tells the story of Isabel. Now, she's a young woman, very recently married, to a country doctor in Yorkshire. And he goes out on his rounds most days and leaves her behind, very lonely and isolated, in the rather crummy apartment that they rent. And one morning, as I say, it's very, very cold, it's the middle of winter, she decides to try and find some more blankets for their bed because they've been freezing the night before. And she searches in an old cupboard and finds at the back the eponymous Greatcoat. It's an RAF Greatcoat, and it once belonged to a pilot in Bomber Command who's been long dead. He was shot down about 10 years before and killed. Well, she puts the Greatcoat on the bed and it makes it much warmer, but it also invokes a haunting. The ghost of the dead pilot comes back and visits her. And he doesn't just haunt her, he makes love to her. It's a powerfully erotic story with an extraordinary twist. Unfortunately, the author couldn't be here in person today, but here are some questions we asked her a bit earlier.
In the writing of The Greatcoat, I had to do quite substantial research into the period, into the conduct of the bombing campaign, the daily lives of the aircrew. However, I was also drawing, to some extent, on personal experience and definitely on family memories and discussions with people I knew who had been through the war. I was born in the early 50s, so still the era of rationing, and I remember the freezing bedrooms of that time, the coal fires, the sense of difficulty and also optimism, and you would see bomb sites, you would hear a lot of stories, a lot of stories about the war that had ended only a few years before. So it's a mixture of formal research, letters, diaries, recordings, interviews, and the more personal sense of what the atmosphere was like at that time. This is a ghost story because it concerns a crack in time where the past can come alive within the present. And it also questions whether the past has ever really died. You know, whether the passionate love between Alec and the older woman has somehow left an imprint, a deep, deep memory on the place where Isabel comes to live. So it's also about the relationships between the past and the present, and the fact that traumas such as war, death and loss, and very intense, searing experiences such as passionate love do not disappear. They retain their impact for generations. It's true that whenever you write a novel, the characters take hold of you after a certain point and begin to act and behave in ways you couldn't entirely have predicted at the moment of conceiving the story. I always knew this would be a very, very passionate story because it is about possibly the most intense experiences people can ever have. You have a young airman who is living from one op to another, never knowing whether he will survive to the next day, falling in love with a woman, her falling in love with him, their time being so limited, so precious and so extraordinary. And therefore it's going to be very, very passionate. I wanted it to have a strong physical texture, the texture of touch, smell, taste. So they are really two people who are absolutely there in their bodies, and the reader feels, I know these people, I know exactly what they're experiencing. Well, I loved writing this ghost story, and it taught me a lot of things about writing. I mean, writing to quite a firm, fixed length, and I developed it in a slightly different way. I wrote a long, long outline. I am at the moment working on a story which does have a faint element of the supernatural in it, so I think I've been influenced by The Greatcoat and what I've learnt in it into thinking, yes, I would like to explore that channel further and deeper, really, and then go on in it.
Thank you very much indeed, Helen. Well, that's the book, The Greatcoat. It's as good as it sounds. As usual, with all our WHSmith special books, you'll find in the back extra value, extra treatments. You get the question and answer sessions with all of the authors, details on how to download the podcast, and of course, brand new, starting this autumn, we've got our book club app. You simply download the app to your smartphone, you go into WHSmith's, you point the phone at the book in our list that you're thinking of buying, and we'll pop up in person and give you a verbal review of what hopefully you're about to buy, and even more hopefully about to enjoy. But I'm sure you will.